Hello, pre-algebra. Today we're looking at solving equations again, but this time it's a little different from the ones that we had been doing. These might be two-step equations, they might be three-step equations, they might be more than that. But what's going to happen here is you're going to see like terms. So we're going to have to simplify the like terms first before we find out if we have a one-step problem or a two-step problem. So let's get on to this. We're going to solve each equation, and we're going to do that by simplifying a side first before we get into the rest of that. So let's see what that looks like. Let's look at problem one. Problem one here, notice, oh, let me move these out of the way. Let's get that down, let's get that down. Let me go that high. Okay, so problem one, notice, the first thing to notice here, I should say, is that I have like terms right here. Those are like terms. I've got to deal with those first before I do anything else. I've got to simplify it. I've got to clean it up. Then I can start to solve the problem. So let's go ahead and see how we're going to do this. Well, since those are both like terms and they're both negatives, I got a negative 7 minus 5, or a negative 7 plus negative 5. This is really 1 minus 12n. So that's my first step, is to get that like terms combined. Now that I have that done, I see that I have a two-step problem. I have to get rid of the 1 first, then I can get rid of the 12. So to get rid of the 1, since it's a positive 1, I got to take 1 from both sides. Now if I do that, I got a negative 11 take away 1, I get a negative 12. That equals negative 12n. Notice this negative sign in front of the 12, I still have it in my problem down here. I want to make sure I can keep track of those negatives. Okay, so I have a negative 12 times n equaling a negative 12. Well, I got to get rid of the negative 12 here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 12. And when I do that, I get a 1 equals n. Now, I want to check it to make sure it does work. So I'm going to plug that 1 back in here for both of these. So I have 1 minus 7 times 1, which would be 1 minus 7, which would be a negative 6. And then I've got to subtract 5 times 1, which would be a 5. So negative 6 minus 5 is negative 11. That works out. So that does work when n is 1. Okay, let's look at problem number 3 over here now. I've got a negative 6 equals 4n minus 3n. Again, I have like terms here. I want to deal with it. So I've got the negative 6, not going to do anything with it. 4n take away 3n would leave me with an n. Guess what? That's our solution. We don't have to do anything more with that because I already have a single variable without a coefficient, or the coefficient is 1. Okay, so let's look at a couple more problems here. I got problems 5, 7, and 9 yet to deal with. Here we go. Okay, so problem 5, I'm slightly out of kilter on that. I don't like being out of kilter. There we go. 5, negative n minus 3n equals a negative 20. Again, I've got like terms here. They're both negative. So I actually have a negative 1n minus 3n, which would be a negative 1 plus negative 3, which would be a negative 4n equals negative 20. Now I see I just have a one-step equation. I just need to get rid of the negative 4. Just the negative 4. So that means I need to divide both sides by a negative 4. So that gives me a positive n on this side, because the 4's would divide off. And on the other side, I got a negative divided by a negative, which means my answer has to be positive. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So n equals 5. Now, again, I can check it to make sure it works. If I take the negative 5 and I minus 3 times 5, I get a negative 5 minus 15, which would be negative 20. That does work out. Okay, let's look at the next problem. I got n minus 5 plus 1 equals 4. So the first thing I notice is I do have like terms. In this case, the like terms don't have variables with them. They're just the number portions. So I want to connect them together first. A negative 5 plus 1 is a negative 4. So n minus 4 has to equal 4. Now, I've got a one-step equation in which I just need to move this minus 4, get rid of the minus 4. So that means I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So on the left, the minus 4, positive 4 cancels off. Notice they have opposite signs. That's why they cancel off. That gets me an n equals 8. Now I can check that. 8 minus 5 is 3, and 3 plus 1 is 4, so that does work. You can always check your work when you have an equation that you're supposed to solve. So now let's look at this last problem I want to show you. Okay, again, I have an equation. I've got an equal sign in there. I want to figure out what the v is, and I have like terms here. So what is a negative 2 plus 8? That would be a 6. So I got 6v equals a negative 24. Now I want to get rid of the 6, so to do that, I need to divide by 6 because we are multiplying by a 6. So I'm going to divide by 6, and that gets me v equals negative 4. Now I can go in and go ahead and check that. Negative 2 times negative 4 is a positive 8, and 8 times a negative 4 would be a negative 32, and an 8 minus 32 would give me a negative 24, which is what we were supposed to get, so that works out. So that's how we do these problems. We're going to see that they have like terms on one or both sides, and you want to combine those like terms first, then do the work. Okay, so I did 5 of the problems, worked out with you. You've got the other 15. You can do them.